Bryce, here we are. It's 2021.
2021.
How's your 2021 going so far, would you say? It's mostly it's pretty much just the same as 2020, right?
2021. Oh,
yeah.
It's a new year, Jeff.
It is. It is.
It's fine. I'm busy with work stuff, and the world continues to be on fire, and there are no new video games, so we're really just having a great time out here. But I'm glad to be back on the show.
Yeah. It may be a new year, but it is the same old Rage Select podcast right here on Rage Select with me, Jeff.
Hi.
And that's Bryce. And
I'm Bryce. Sorry, I'm completely. This is my second time in a row. I just remembered before we started recording that last time I was also a huge train wreck because I had not slept in 48 hours. So I'm glad to be back giving you my B game.
Well, you know what? I drank a whole bunch of beers last night. We're recording this on a Saturday. I guess it's going to be a real no rules. Just like let's everybody have a good time. You know, we're not trying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like the statement we're not trying. We are trying. We're
trying relatively hard.
But I wanted to ask, you said there's no video games out, but next Wednesday is Hitman 3.
Ooh, I'm so excited for it. And Jeff, I've mentioned on the show before that I'm doing like a stream about Hitman, and we've been doing that stream, for maybe 6 months now, and it is within the past 4 weeks or so that we actually began the Marrakesh level on Hitman 1. We have not even progressed into the Hitman 2 stuff yet.
My goodness.
Because I'm trying to do like all of the challenges, and it takes a really long time to figure out how to do all that stuff. So I'm still excited for Hitman 3 because they've said that there's some space saving stuff because those Hitman games are pretty big on the PlayStation, and I'm assuming that they'll take advantage of all the new hardware and rendering and resolutions and stuff. So I'm excited for it. I'm still excited to see what Hitman 2 looks like, though. I'm still at that point. I haven't even.
Wait.
I don't even have a casual save file. I haven't even played through.
Oh, you haven't even just gone through Hitman 2?
No. I haven't even finished Hitman 1. I'm doing it for the stream. I'm doing it for the content, Jeff. You know this.
Yeah, sort of, a little bit, but there's some games that I'll do for the content, and there's some games where you guys can all go fuck yourselves. I'm going to play through this game. I've been waiting for it for a million years. Plus, after 2020 kind of ended with Cyberpunk, and I just ended up not really playing that. I just kind of abandoned it and played a bunch of Hades and Phoenix Rising and Gears Tactics and stuff like that instead. I really want this feels like one of the games that was on my oh my god, I can't wait for it. And a lot of those other games got pushed, or Elden Ring. There's just people get freaked out over 3 concept art screenshots. So,
Yeah.
but I like this, and I like the fact that it's going to finally end that story, because I still maintain that I think that Hitman 2016 was supposed to end with you killing the Constant in Hokkaido, and that at the last minute they switched it to the guy at the beginning as he's a traitor, because there was none of that throughout the entire game. Either that or the guy that ends up being your brother, whose name I can never remember, or whatever that guy is, the guy that's hiring them in the first game with the
the shadow client, something like that.
So I'm really excited to see what happens, and I'm really excited to see IO go on to this James Bond project. Actually, we got it in the news this week, but there's like a crap load of licensed games that seem like they might actually be pretty good coming out in the next year. But I'm getting way ahead of myself, because recording this on Saturday actually gave me the ability to do something that I wasn't going to be able to do, which was that I watched the first 2 episodes of WandaVision last night, which I found to be delightful and really crazy, because the first 2 episodes, it's just like watching this 1950s Andy Griffith Bewitched show that's got really good writing, but it's got like a corny laugh track, and it's all in black and white. And it's just, WandaVision and like, oh, the neighbors, what are they up to? But like in those first 2 episodes, there was just there were a couple of moments where it got very dark, where there was like the implication that something very sinister was happening and that what's going on here isn't, quite as idyllic as you would expect. And I really like that, because I feel like a lot of the later MCU stuff started to get a little bit rote. Like it was fine, but it felt kind of like it was playing by a safe script instead of trying something weirdly creative and having, a fully black and white with like bad 1950s special effects, like the witch and the robot moved into the neighborhood, wacky hijinks ensue. I found it to be absolutely delightful, and I really can't wait to see where it goes from there. So
I've been hearing a lot of good stuff about it. We're going to cover it on one of the shows that I work on, Cord Killers, and I haven't had a chance to watch it yet because with Wonder Woman having come out a few weeks ago, that just kind of reminded me that, oh yeah, I was actually kind of really cold on superhero movies, and since except for Infinity War. Like Infinity War seemed to be something that was like a really cool, fine thing. But right before that, I was completely out of it on the superhero stuff, and so I was a little unsure about what a live action Marvel MCU connected show would be. But I've been hearing a lot of good things, and and I have also been trying to keep myself a little bit out of the loop on what it's supposed to be about, especially because I don't really particularly care for Wanda or Vision as characters. So if it's going to endear me to them, I might as well give it the chance to kind of surprise me a little bit. But yeah, I'm hearing that it's good.
Yeah, it's funny because I think that the two things that I keep forgetting that Disney Plus doesn't put a whole season like that. They don't binge dump a whole season, so it's like you're gonna have to watch it week by week. But then the other thing is that I watched it and I felt like the first 2 episodes really didn't have very much in the way of like implications towards what was going to be happening later. Like it was very mysterious, very kind of subtle and strange. But then I was watching YouTube and there was a YouTube trailer that was like a new trailer that kind of seemed like it was going through what was going to be happening over the entire season and really like implicating stuff that I think I would have rather come to a little bit more organically than this big smash bang like action trailer where you're like, I didn't know we were going over here. So I don't know. I'd recommend. I don't know. Can you recommend? Does anybody out there not skip the ads on YouTube when they see them? Maybe skip the ad for WandaVision if you see it on YouTube. I guess if you want to stay fresh is my advice.
Yeah.
But what have you?
Yeah, that's it. Nope. That's because especially even if WandaVision ends up being kind of something that looks a little more like a generic superhero series or series of set pieces, whatever. Like you at least want to let it get a chance to have kind of a weird start and see where it goes from there. And so many movies and series still have this problem of like their trailers give everything away or just set the wrong tone. Like I think a lot of Netflix shows have bad trailers and they don't set you up right for shows. Or even like I would say infamously like Get Out. Like Get Out, the horror movie from Jordan Peele had like the trailer was awful. It told you everything about the movie. It told you everything. And that's still happening. So it's it sounds like going in blind is the way to go.
Yeah, definitely. Have you been watching or listening to or playing or doing anything? Is there anything super fascinating in the world of Bryce over the last couple months that you'd like to talk about?
This will be half of a plug, but over the holidays, over the Christmas holiday season, I was doing a daily stream of us playing this kind of community game called Marbles on Stream. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've tuned in a few times.
Yeah. So we ended up doing like 9 days or something of that, and we ended up raising some money for Extra Life, which was really great. Thank you again, everybody who helped support child health in amidst a pandemic. And so I'm getting ready for to do a weekly marble stream starting in February, and I'm doing all sorts of like this is the thing that has been occupying my mind. So it's not really anything I've been watching or playing or anything, but like I'm working on like databases, and I'm figuring out like graphics, and I've been thinking I'm on hour 50 of this headache just because I'm just thinking of but if I have this field and I'm creating records and I can automate and I create like all of the different little things so that we have statistics and points and all sorts of fun stuff. And it's been a lot of fun because it reminds me a lot of it shows me how powerful different puzzle and like programming based games have been that I've played over the past few years, like Human Resource Machine and what is their sequel? It's like a pseudo sequel. 1 billion.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But it's like a programming concepts kind of game, but it's got this kind of cutesy aesthetic from the people who made Little Goo, I think was one of their other games, Little Inferno or World of Goo.
Yeah,
it's that developing team.
7 Billion Humans was the sequel.
Yes, 7 Billion Humans. That's it. And so they're like programming games with this kind of this little graphic based aesthetic, and so you actually learn a bunch of stuff. And so going through and working with these databases has just reminded me like, oh, actually, like a lot of stuff that I'm pulling from this of like, okay, I need to make a thing that is just represents this, and this references this, and this is like that. Those games have been immeasurably helpful in something like this that I'm now applying to like actual database and codes and stuff. So like seriously check out those games because they're really great, and you actually learn like
the basics of programming,
real coding stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
I think the one time that I tuned in, I went into the it's kind of like this marble race through where you just kind of a physics simulation where you're dropping these marbles in and they're kind of going through and they're bouncing off of each other, and so there's not like there's not a direct like player involvement. But then are you the one that's creating the tracks, or are the tracks just like randomized? Is that what you're talking about when you're talking about like the database stuff, or
well, so
or just like brackets and
the thing that I'm layering on top of all of the gameplay experience is a statistics database. So like people have already made tracks. It comes with a bunch of tracks made by the publishers or the developers also have. And so you can build tracks, but really that's not what the thing that I'm trying to inject into this is. And there are plenty of other great streamers out there who like make tracks, and you can watch them make tracks, and it's also its own form of craziness. But this is more of like my feeling is I don't exactly know why we're doing all of this, other than I want someone at the end of however long the season of streams is to like be able to like have a little baseball card, with their name on it and stats and like how well they did and how many points they earned and how many times they got stuck, and if they ever broke a record or something. And I think I have all of the pieces in place to do that. And so it's now a matter of like justifying why I'm like building another like statistical database on top of a game that already keeps track of stats on its server side. But it's a lot of fun, and we've had a lot of people join in, and I've been seeing people. Twitch has been sending out like those year-end recap emails, and so I've had people say like, oh, this one emote that we use at the end of races that everybody spams. People are saying like, oh, this is my like number one emote because I've been watching you do those races streams. And so I know people are excited about it, and I want to have a part of that is ours, that is not just the game, because anybody can just play the game. There are already people who just go in and play the game on stream. but I want to kind of I like to zhuzh it up. I like to treat it like it's like a big sporting game. Like I want to have video highlight packages,
sure.
and I want to keep stats like, this person is at the end of week 2, Open Bayou is the #1 racer, and this person's got stuck the most and all that stuff.
You want a marbles culture. You want like a sporting culture around the marbles.
yes. Oh, that's perfect. I'm going to write that down, Jeff, because that's exactly the thing that's it. A marbles culture.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you go. I think you should have T-shirts where you could just get like a picture of your marble, and it's just a T-shirt with just one giant marble on it, and people will be like, "What is that?" And you'll be like, "You wouldn't get it, man. You're not cool."
Oh. Don't tempt me, Jeff. That would be perfect. Oh, okay. I gotta stop talking about this.
No, that's all right. In other complicated video game news, it's 2021, but that doesn't mean that we can stop talking about Cyberpunk 2077 ever. Apparently, now, Bryce. Last time we talked, I think I was early. I was kind of making a case for the game. The more I played it, the more I ended up kind of not liking it, and then kind of coming to the conclusion that I think a lot of people came to, which was like, on the consoles, even the next gen consoles, I'm just going to wait for this thing to get fixed. Like, it seems like it's in a pretty decent state on the PC, but I'm starting to wonder just whether there's content that needs to be added back in, whether there are systems that needed to be added back in to make the game more full than it is right now. But my question to you is, did you ever actually play it? Did you ever actually start it? Did you break down and get it?
So full disclosure, last time I was on the show, that was my stance too, was I'm not going to get the game until the next gen patches come out. And then about 24 hours after we recorded that episode, before it even went out to people, I think by the time they heard it, my stance on this had completely changed, which was, okay, well, now I've been talking about it and seeing all the news come out about it, that I feel like it would be a service to myself to actually go and play it and see. I've got a PlayStation 5. Not a lot of people have a PlayStation 5. And so see what it looks like. And when the next gen patches come out, I can say, oh, actually, this looks better. This looks worse. This blah, 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 blah. And so I did end up buying the game, and apparently I'm almost done with it. I've gotten to the mission that when you approach it, it says, this is the point of no return. So if you want to do anything, go out and do it. And it shocked me because I didn't feel like I had played that much of the game. And there are still a lot of side quests that like I had to go hunt down to find. And I've been feeling like I like playing this game. I like when I'm actually doing stuff in the game, right? When I'm infiltrating bases and stuff, but it doesn't feel like there's a lot of prompting to that. Or it feels like a lot of the stuff that's in there are like gigs, right? Where you walk up to a building and you get a phone call that says, there's a bad guy in here, kill him. And then you go in and you find the bad guy and you kill him.
Right.
And it feels like there's an all right amount of that. And then the side quests, which have kind of story beats to them, it doesn't seem like there's a lot. Like there's like a lot of racing events that I don't want to do, and there's a lot of the Cyber Psychos series of catching and killing guys. I don't really care about that much. There's a whole like fisticuffs series of side quests that I'm not interested in because I'm not spec'd for melee, because nobody specs for melee in an open world game like this. And along with all the crash issues, this game still crashes for me every 2 hours or so. It looks kind of like butt in a lot of places. Driving is not very good. The systems that are in the game, even if they were executed well, don't seem very good. Like, I think if this game was executed very well, I think we would all be saying, wow, this is kind of a disappointing game. Right.
That's kind of why I stopped playing it, was because it seemed to me, well, at first it became viable to me, or it became clear to me that the hacking stuff felt very underbaked, and that there was like a dozen powers. They did rudimentary things. And then I didn't like the stealth because I kept getting seen. And then it was like, I don't know.
The stealth system is very frustrating because it's like you can stealth your way through most of a level, but the second you lose stealth, you are completely you are completely engaging for the rest of this mission.
Right.
There's no like getting back into stealth.
And then I was the dumbass who tried to do melee. I think I just picked like the 3 most underbaked systems and tried to build a character around it. And then I kind of thought about it and was like, well, if it's not that though, if I can't play the way that I want it, if like it's fine if you just drive around and shoot people, I didn't find the shooting to be like especially interesting. Like it was fine, but it wasn't anything like it wasn't so interesting that I would want to play a whole game that was based around that. And then if all you're going to end up doing is shooting people, I don't know. I think that I had this moment that kind of poisoned me a little bit where I started comparing it to Deus Ex Mankind Divided. And I just thought about all the stuff you can do in Mankind Divided with like that weird cyber shell and turning invisible and punching through walls and grabbing people and like that whole like weird social like lying system you can do to convince people to do stuff for you. And I was expecting something that was more like that. And I felt like what I got was like a very superficial version of that was mostly about shooting people. Like the other stuff in there works reasonably well, but the main mechanic is drive to a place and just blap everybody that's in there. And
like the reason that I like the shooting, and I don't play a lot of shooting games, so like I don't know how this compares to a Call of Duty, but like part of what I like about the shooting is that I'm fucking chewing through guys. Like the reason I do stealth is because there's like some challenge to that, or the reason I'm doing hacking, which takes some while to build up to and is really not intuitive in terms of how you build up your hacking or you upgrade your skills and stuff. Is at least that's giving me a challenge, because otherwise I go in with I have a little pulse rifle that is great and it just chews through guys nonstop. If I wanted to, I could just juggernaut through the whole city, and that at least like there's some mechanical. It feels good to win very easily, but yeah, the rest of the stuff just feels underbaked, right? Yeah. Like the stealth is serviceable, but not as good as it could be. Really, dialogue wise, there's not a lot in terms of like making decisions or influencing people at all. And yeah, that's really frustrating. Is that, you know, I mean, we're going to talk about the actual news about this here in a second, I'm sure. But it has been very eye opening to go like, oh, this is actually just kind of a mediocre game, and I think we all took the words from the makers of Witcher 3 for granted. Yeah, almost a little bit.
Yep. But it was actually interesting. So yes, last week we got a 5-minute video from who I don't remember who this guy is like the CEO or CFO or one of the big high muckety mucks at
he's a co-founder, Marcin Iwinski.
He basically came out and said like, yeah, we messed up real bad. Like, it's actually, I think one of the most interesting things about Cyberpunk 2077 is I feel like the last time that we saw a failure that had so many knock-on effects as what's going on with Cyberpunk 2077 was probably Battlefront 2 and all the loot box stuff that then ended up like shoving the loot box mechanics like very much into the forefront, because you don't normally see video game companies make a video like this where the guy is like, we didn't make a very good game, like we messed up. And it's not like we messed up because there's, you know, abuse, or like we messed up because we did something illegal or something like that. This is just like, we told you guys we were going to give you a very good game, and what you got was not what we told you. And I feel like this is one of the first times I've ever seen this become so much of a weird issue where it's like, most of the times a company puts out a bad game, gamers are disappointed, people get mad, we talk about Aliens, Colonial Marines forever, and the world moves on. But, you know, there's a lawsuit from investors about, you know, you represented this was going to make us X amount of money, and then it didn't because you willfully like suppressed the PS4, Xbox One version, so people didn't know how buggy they were. You know, you only let them see basically the best version of the game, so that there wasn't a way for the public to really evaluate their expectations of what this game was. And that normally that's not a situation that I feel like we see this much around. It's usually just like, well, we got fucked by EA. damn, it happened again. All right, what's coming out next week type of thing, and not this very much this big, I don't know, maybe Anthem was something, because they did have this roadmap that they decided to put out. There was this kind of weird half-hearted explanation about how like they wanted to make they started with the PC version, and then they wanted to basically,
which makes sense.
Yeah, and then they thought that they were going to be able to basically like downgrade the PC version a step at a time to get it onto consoles. But then like one of the things that they said that I don't know if this stuck out to you was very much like that they thought they could get the fixes that they needed into the Day Zero patch, that like they certified the game to go out, and then they were racing the release date to get the patch that would then make the game playable on those consoles out before, by the time it came out, and that what they ended up with was not sufficient to do that. That it just seems like they really wanted to put this game out this year. They really wanted to hit this release date, and somewhere some group of people were just like, there will be no more delays. It doesn't matter if we're going to put out a garbage game. There will be no more delays. The game will be on, the PlayStation Network on store shelves on, what was it, like December 11th, or was it later than that? Was it 21st?
It was like early December, which was already 3 weeks delayed. I don't know if you saw a new report from Jason Schreier today, who's over at Bloomberg now, but he talked to a bunch of former devs who had worked on Cyberpunk, and they painted a pretty strong picture of the development team. The development team having more realistic expectations than the management or the leadership team in terms of where the status of the game was, and what realistically was likely to happen. And reading that report, right, like originally they wanted this game to come out well in advance of the new generation of games, so that they could double dip or get a second chance at least of a new cycle. Like, hey, now we have a new version out for the new next gen, and it looks even better and all that stuff. And the game was just not ready, along with a lot of other little tidbits. But the thing that I'm taking away from this, and even this, our commitment to quality video, is like, this is more so than the quality of game, right? Because you can fix the quality of a game. Given enough time, the Cyberpunk 2077 can look like a good game, or can be a functional game across these systems at various levels appropriate to the hardware. But I don't believe a lot of what is said in this video. I don't believe a lot of what CD Projekt Red is saying anymore. I just truly, on a fundamental level, don't believe them. And I think that for a lot of people, that might be the case, whether it's you promised it would look like this and now these features have been cut, or the game is not good and I thought you were selling me a finished game. And that applies, or like even in terms of workplace conditions, right? Part of the big thing of this, the new Schreier article is like, they said there was not going to be crunch, and there was definitely crunch, and they say that there's not going to be crunch, and how many more times do they have to say there's not going to be crunch and there's crunch for us to just not believe that the developers are having to work forced or implicit overtime to try to fix this game that was rushed out probably a year or more too early. And so, I look at the roadmap, and the roadmap is like, oh yeah, the next gen versions, they said will probably be in the later half of 2021. I like, by that time, I'm gonna find some. There might not be any more games out by then, but I'm gonna find fucking something else to do than try to play Cyberpunk anymore.
You're gonna be running your marble empire. You're gonna be the commissioner of marbles. By that point, you're not gonna have time to replay. Well, that's the reason why I stopped, is because I don't generally like to play these huge RPGs. I like to play them once, and I will play the hell out of them to get everything that I can out of it. But the thing is that, if this is the sort of thing where the next-gen versions are going to have better-looking graphics, but the gameplay is going to be relatively similar, that's one thing. But, this roadmap in 2021 there's a patch 1.1 is coming out very shortly, and then patch 1.2 is coming out after that, and then there's this big nebulous bar that says multiple updates and improvements, and it's just a bunch of hashes, and it goes from patch 1.2 all the way to 2022. It says multiple updates and improvements, and there's a thing that says free DLCs and a thing that says free next gen console update. Okay, for my mind, I don't care about the next gen console update. Like I play this game as a PS3 game if it was good. I don't care like whether the ray tracing is turned on. If the I used to, but at this
I do.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. But like I do. Like I kind of thought like, okay, the next gen version will come out. We'll have an idea of when is coming out, and now the idea is later 2021. That's me. Sorry, continue.
No, but for my money, I wanted, like, the thing about this is my own personal philosophy about this sort of thing is like, I don't need you to apologize. I don't care if you apologize. I really don't give a shit if you say you're sorry that you fucked up the launch. What I care about is what is contained in this section that says multiple updates and improvements. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean you're going to make the driving better? Does that mean you're going to make the shooting better? Does that mean there's going to be different, like, dialogue options or more story content? Like, what are the free DLCs? If it's just golden gun skins, I could care less. If you're going to be putting like 4 new motorcycles in the game, I don't fucking give a shit about that. Now, if you're going to be revamping the stealth system to make it fun, that I care about. So a lot of this video, it kind of gets my hackles up a little bit. Well, we talked about this a little bit.
I mean,
previously, where like my own personal philosophy is like I base my ideas about a company based on their reputation. And CD Projekt Red has had a relatively good reputation, a very good reputation for a lot of people. I think The Witcher 3 is too long. I just couldn't hang with it. But in any case, I understand.
But a well executed game,
right?
A well put together thing. What it is rather polished and sophisticated to a degree.
And so my whole thing is that if you have a proven track record of doing good things, then I will give you the benefit of the doubt when it comes to moving forward. If you do something like this, then I'm going to need to see some good faith that is more than just, well, the PC version doesn't crash if your save game gets over 8 megs now. And it's like, that's baseline. Like, what you're doing right now is bringing this game to a baseline, non-broken, mediocre open world first person RPG. Like a Saints Row Saints Row, I like Saints Row more than this game.
This was fine. Yeah. Saints Row doesn't crash. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, they are the tire fire of this story is not that like parts of the game are not very well designed or not very well implemented. Like, literally, this game crashes to the OS menu on my PlayStation every session I play it. Sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's a couple hours, but I don't think that I've sat down and played this game once and not had a big OS crash. And that's where we're at. Like, functionally, these games don't work on the it's not listed on the Sony store. It's still not listed on the PlayStation store. That's what all they have to figure out, or that's all they can focus on right now, because on one of the big storefronts, it's literally not even able to be listed because it's in such a shape. And
yeah, I don't know. I feel like you and I are on two different sides of the coin, because I would be willing. I would, if it crashed. If it was a very fun game that crashed every couple of hours and I lost 10 minutes worth of progression, I wouldn't care, because I could just go back and continue playing the very, very fun game. Like, I've played games that crash on the reg before, and if it's a very fun game, I will put up with that. My issue here is that I feel like even once you get all the crashes sorted out, what you're left with is not an exceptionally fun game. Like, I know when I play a fun game, I can't stop playing it. Like, I'll stay up too late. I'll only sleep for 4 hours. Like, I'm all wrecked up when I have to do anything that's not just play the video game. Like, when Dark Souls 2 came out and I had it for midnight launch and I was supposed to record with Jason the next day, and I'm staying up for like 28 hours straight because I just kept playing it. I couldn't stop because I have impulse control when it comes to sort of thing. I was having to force myself to start this game up. That's why I stopped playing it, was because it was like, I don't want to play this game. Like I get into playing Hades, and I can't fucking stop playing Hades. I'll play Hades over and over and over again, even though I've beaten it at this point. Like I'm sure that those Hitman, I loaded up the Haven and the Golden Handshake, the 2 DLC levels for Hitman 2 yesterday, and played through them. I was just like, what a delight. Like even now, I've done most of the challenges in these levels. I've done all the story bits, but I'm just going to go do and play it again because it's just fun to play Hitman. And that's what I'm not getting. I feel like when I talk with a lot of people about 2077, it's very much this idea of just like, well, I've had fun. Like, there's always that kind of that weird modifier when you're talking about this game about just like it. No, I mean, you can play it. Like it's pretty. I don't hear anybody just like, oh my God, this is unequivocally my 2020 game of the year. It's so much better than anything else that I played. It's so much better than The Last of Us 2. It's so much better than Final Fantasy or Hades or, some of the really good stuff that came out in 2020. Is that right? And for me, all that adds up to an equation that equals like, this is a medium tier 67 on Metacritic. Okay. Game. Like it's not doing anything that's so over and above what any open world drivey shooty dialogue option-y game would be doing, that it stands out in a way that like The Witcher did, or just any game in this particular. I don't know. We do have to keep moving.
I mean, we both. I think we both have different focuses, but I think the picture we're both painting is that this is a game that has a needs improvement stamp on it.
Yes.
And whether it is making the game more polished and sophisticated or fun or conceptually, from a design standpoint better, or from a technical point of the thing, I like this game in the way that I like some Ubisoft games, in that like I can, or even like Fallout, I can walk around, I can have someone tell me to do something and I can go and do it and not think about it. But that whole loop gets broken when I see it seize up for a second and I know it's coming, and then the PlayStation error screen comes up and I go, well, fuck me, I'm just gonna go watch TV or something, because at this point you don't
have to fight your entertainment.
I want to at least play the goddamn thing. Yeah. and that's also a frustration point. And at this point, like, CD Projekt Red has to deal with both fronts. One, maybe keeping it from being sold in the Sony store more than the other. But, this is, even when this is a well-executed game, right? Even when the design that is shipped works, let's not say flawlessly, but it actually works and it doesn't crash and whatnot. Even resolutions and frame rates being what they are, like, you still have, and I think, you have a very valid point. It was like, you still have a questionable game that needs work, but like, this talk of like free DLCs, like we did with The Witcher 3, which they are just reminding us, remember how much you like Witcher 3? Like, you got to convince me more than that of a reason to play this game. I mean, this is a game where I literally can't tell if my game is glitching on purpose or not, because the whole tent pole of this game is that all of your shit is broken because of glitchy hardware. So if I was walking through like some tunnel or something, and I could tell that all of the HUD elements on my screen, the contrast was ramping up for whatever reason. It was applying some shader or some drop shadow effect, and it got darker and darker and darker. And I couldn't tell if, like, is that the part of the game where all of my shit is broken all the time, or is that a part of the game where all of the game's shit is broken all the time? I've had parts where I can tell definitely, like, it makes Relic malfunction, where the screen is like getting all shaky, and that's supposed to happen, and the guy has to sit down because sitting down is a very important part of Cyberpunk 2077. But then it never stops getting that shaky thing because the game is fucking broken. And so literally you're walking around and everything's all shaky and stuff. And that's like, you gotta fix it's so frustrating, man. This is really just a bad showing for CD Projekt Red and the management who decided that this game must come out when it did, because obviously the answer to all of these problems is it was not ready for at least another 12 months.
Yeah. So part of this announcement was also that apparently they're going to be trying to avoid crunch on all of future projects. Avoiding crunch on all of our future projects is one of our top priorities. It's a little Weasley. I don't know. At this point, it's one of those things where I feel like you just quit CD Projekt.
Why would you believe that?
I don't. Yeah.
Like literally, why would you believe this? Would be the third. This is like the third time they've said this.
Yeah.
And the last two times we know that it's not true. The first, I mean, we talked about this at some point earlier in the podcast or on another podcast, I'm sure. But like, about a year ago, they said on an investor call, yeah, I know we said we're not going to crunch, but we're going to crunch a little bit. And I think on the last time I was on this show, I said, I said like, hey, like sometimes you do have to crunch when you're coming up to a deadline. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just have to get it done. But clearly that is not what happened here.
Yeah. Clearly
this has been the environment at CD Projekt Red for think of how long this game was supposed to come out, right? This game was supposed to come out Valentine's Day 2019. Is that right?
Supposed to be before even that. I mean, it was announced in like 2012, I believe, right?
But this is a game that's been missing, been in overtime for years now,
right?
And now this game's on fucking fire because it's been released too soon, and there's nothing else you can do but say we need all of our development power working on fixing this game or making this game more playable or X, Y, and Z, and. It's of all of the things it's hard to believe them on, crunch is the biggest thing that is hard to believe them because we just know that that's not true.
Well, the way you avoid crunch is with very good planning, with enough time to finish a thing, like good focus, like being able to adapt when you need to, and it doesn't seem like that's something that's going on in CD Projekt Red. Like I don't feel like a company that had very, very good project management, time management, skills to pivot, put more people into places that are needed, focus on, features in the right order. I don't feel like that company would have put out what we saw. So like I said before, at this point, CD Projekt Red's reputation in my mind is just like, I'll believe it when I see it. I'm with you where I'm like, I do not believe you, but if you do it, then I'll be here to say, good job, you did it. I'm very happy that you did it, but right now I'm not holding my breath. And neither apparently is there's like this Polish consumer like advocacy group. What are they called? The Poland's Office of Competition and Consumer Protection is also apparently going to be monitoring this whole effort. Basically to make sure that, this is a little weird for Americans. Like, other countries have like consumer protection departments that like keep the consumers from getting like knowingly boned by companies. And this, in Europe, there's a lot more consumer protection, which is why you always hear about the loot box stuff in like Belgium. And basically they're going to be monitoring kind of this effort by CD Projekt Red to put this back together again, because their whole mandate is to make sure that this company didn't rip off the consumer. And so, and apparently there's there's kind of like it's the potential that if they don't satisfy the requirements of this department, they might be fined up to 10% of their annual revenue, which probably will not happen, but
probably not.
Yeah, it's just in addition to all the other shit. That's why I was saying before that I feel like this is so weird, because I feel like I've talked on this podcast. I mean, this is like year 8 of Rage Select about there's so many bad games that have had a crap load of money wasted on them, and then what comes out the other side is just straight garbage. And I feel like this one was so big that it's like you can really get away with that when you're making Aliens Colonial Marines or fucking, I don't know, Mass Effect 3 or any number of the high profile, No Man's Sky, like when it first came out. But, the amount of just government entities, consumer protection groups and lawsuits and stuff that are going in here, it feels like it's kind of been taken to a next level where maybe it just represents that gaming in general has gotten so big that it doesn't just get written off anymore if a company screws a bunch of people out of their money, that there's actually going to be consequences moving forward. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and it could just be the fact that it's a Polish company, right? That this office has actual jurisdiction over over a Polish headquartered company or something. I think they have plenty of incentives to try to fix this right now, but also it's good that there are functioning government entities that are allowed to look over the health and safety of their consumers.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of big moves in the video game industry, let's get to some more. Let's get to some more good stuff. So apparently, this week there was a big change where all of the Star Wars stuff is being consolidated under this new Lucasfilm Games banner. Now, this is kind of the beginning of a much larger story where apparently the big kind of thing here is that EA no longer has their full monopoly on Star Wars games moving forward. But this is actually, I don't know why they didn't just call it LucasArts. Apparently Lucasfilm Games was what LucasArts was before they rebranded as LucasArts. But I feel like if you could get back to just saying LucasArts, maybe that's because it's more of a publishing and not a development thing. But
I would think that that's it, because I know when Disney took over when Disney took over the Star Wars and gaming operations, the thing you saw over the years after that was the dissolution of Disney directly making those games and having studios and trying to make studios make games. Yeah. And so my guess is that if you called it LucasArts, you would expect there to be some sort of in-house development studio, where Lucasfilm Games is just the little sticker that you're going to see on all of the stuff that they license out for a fee or whatever deal that they do.
But the bigger news than that was the fact that apparently Ubisoft is making a gigantic open world Star Wars game. So this is happening. Ubisoft Massive, which is the studio behind The Division and The Division 2, is going to be making this. They worked a little bit on some of the previous projects, but their main project was Division 1 and Division 2. It's supposed to be a big open world Star Wars game in the style of maybe Ubisoft. This is very early times. This is probably not going to be seen for at least a couple years. Of course, I don't know. Ubisoft, a lot of times, they've got so many freaking studios and so much money. Sometimes they'll just throw 8 studios onto just churning out. That's used to do with those Assassin's Creed games. It would be like Ubisoft Montreal, Ubisoft Massive, Ubisoft Chinatown, Ubisoft Jakarta, Ubisoft International Space Station. Now, oh God, I was thinking that maybe we were going to go from a lot of complaining to optimism for the future. I am very skeptical about anything made by the people who made The Division and The Division 2, because I do not like The Division or The Division 2. I think they are very boring and grindy, and that the stories don't make any sense, and that they're very focused on getting those purple guns. You could shoot those guys, you can get more of the purple guns off the guys. So I'm going to be wary, but on the other hand, I really liked Immortals Phoenix Rising. I mean, no, that was a different studio, but I'm really hoping that if Ubisoft is actually going to make good on some of if getting rid of that Serge Hascoët guy that was the guy that was every game needs to be open world and they all need to have dude protagonists and they all need to have very light stories so players can make their own thing. If they've gotten rid of that kind of edict, maybe we're looking at a return to some of the old Ubisoft more creative type of game stuff, as opposed to the very, I don't know. I am not a fan of most of what Ubisoft makes these days, because I feel like it's all the same. And so if what you're talking about is just making Assassin's Creed Odyssey but slapping a Star Wars skin on top of it, I'm not into that. But if you're talking about being creative and especially with the whole Division DNA, not making this a like, you can play it online with your friends. You want to do that, right? 4-player co-op, so you can get a bunch of purple lightsaber crystals so that you guys can go on the upper tier raids that we're releasing next year, fight a Rancor, but this one's got stripes and it's part of this weird submission over here. Like, I don't want that. So, but I mean, I'm saying all this based on literally the story is like, Ubisoft is making another Star Wars game, and I'm like, no, never, stop it.
I know that as a part of this, Massive came out and said this will be a different game than the Division games that they had made previously. So who knows where it lands in terms of is this very much like a Division type game where it's a how heavy is the focus on loot? And you look at Assassin's Creed has become very heavy on loot, but that is also a formula that works, right? Like the Division has a dedicated fan base. Assassin's Creed continues to have people who like that style of game, and I don't know. I feel like we know so little about this that it's hard to say. But it does sound like the exclusivity deal that EA had, which will run out I believe next year, will not be replaced with a new exclusivity deal for Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Which was a big question that I think a lot of people had when the Star Wars title was announced. I don't know. I think I can see a world where you make a Assassin's Creed or a Watch Dogs style open world game on a Star Wars planet or on Star Wars little town hubs or something. Like I think I could see where you do that and you mix action and a little bit of gunplay and make kind of a checklisty game, right? Because I feel like you might know better than me, Jeff, but I feel like there haven't been Star Wars games in that ilk of trying to be a checklist on a map style open world game. And I think Star Wars as a brand would certainly at least fit the formula, and it would not be the worst kind of melding of ideas.
I think that you got a little bit of that from KOTOR back in the old days, big open world, and you're kind of doing sub stories and sub missions and building up and getting stuff. And that worked. And then I think that there's also some of that DNA probably in Jedi Fallen Order, right? You're going between different places and going back and doing kind of sub missions and stuff like that. I know that actually, in all honesty, maybe the way to think about it is in terms of the Lego Star Wars games, because those are just very wide open, like areas with little things where you come back and you do this part with this character and then you do this part with this character, but instead of Lego, it's just like regular make a character. I guess my biggest question for this is it online? Is it play with your friends, or because I am 100%, I mean, in theory, I'm 100% down with an open world Star Wars game. That sounds great, right? Make your own character, wander around, have Star Wars adventures, tie in some kind of plot. I mean, of course, like KOTOR was, I think, the last time that we had a single player Star Wars game that worked like that outside of maybe Jedi Fallen Order. But I think that formula could work very well for Star Wars. I just get really nervous about but then we've got to shoehorn in the play with your friends. I mean, most of the Ubisoft games that I've tried to play over the last few years have had some kind of weirdo online component, even if it doesn't really make any sense, even if spider bot multiplayer and Watch Dogs Legion for some reason. And I worry because when you make when it's a big online thing that you're supposed to play with your friends, it means that you have to create content. You normally need to be creating content that you're going to have to play with other people, and then that ends up making a different tone of game because you got other people that are acting like players do and not NPCs in the game. But in any case, it was very early days in this particular story.
I mean, right. I mean, I don't know if they gave a date on this or if the year I'm about to say is been very casually spoken. But I mean, this is probably not a game we see until 2023 at the earliest.
Yeah, I would say that
would be my guess.
That makes a lot of sense. But in other Star Wars news, we actually did find out that although Ubisoft is making the game, Lucasfilm Games is going to be continuing to have a relationship with EA, which makes sense because I'm sure that Respawn is working on. I think that somebody's trying to. Jedi Fallen Order was so well received, they'd be nuts not to try to do another one of those. And then you've got stuff like the Sims tie-in, and the Battlefront 2 remains online and functional even if it doesn't have the microtransactions, I don't believe, anymore. I think you just earn the packs. You can't actually buy them. But so yeah, there's still.
Yeah, I mean, if EA's got a formula for like even Battlefront, right? Of like, hey, we're making a Star Wars shooter game and it doesn't blow chunks. Like Ubisoft, I don't know, has the development team to make a shooter game.
Yeah,
I say thinking about the breadth of what Ubisoft makes. They don't make those types of games, and I think that's a formula that's worked well for EA in its own franchises. It would make sense to at least try another one of those to see if there's continued support for games like that over the years. And like, yeah, Jedi Fallen Order, which is kind of a left field good action game in the Star Wars universe. And I mean, it seems like that was super well received too.
Plus, you see stuff like Squadrons, where it seems like because EA did so much work getting Star Wars assets into the Frostbite engine, that you can do something like turn a Squadrons around in not that long of a time, because you got the audio, you got the inside of the X-Wing, and it's like, well, we just do some dialogue, make some character models. We've already got, Rhodians and Twi'leks and Wookiees and all that stuff. We're just going to take all the assets we have, put them in a pot, stir them up, and Star Wars. So, I mean, Squadrons, you kind of look, I, as an outsider on Star Wars stuff, look at Squadrons and go, well, it's Ubisoft making like a budget priced game that is by all reports good but short. Do you think maybe they rushed that game out so that it could still be part of this publishing deal, and now that people like it, maybe you get Squadrons 2 or something a little more fully featured? Like, that seems like a possibility with this announcement that they'll continue to make stuff with EA, just not exclusively. Yeah.
I don't know.
Plus, they also does EA make that phone game? The Battle. God, what's it called? Phone game. I actually just reinstalled it on my phone. I played the hell out of it for a while. Galaxy of Heroes. They made Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which is just like ridiculous fan service plus a shitload of microtransactions on your phone. Like, get a new pack. Maybe you'll get Boba Fett this time. Nope, you didn't get Boba Fett. You want another pack? I'm sure that. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm sure that app is just a cash register for them, that it's just money. Speaking of Jedi Fallen Order, we also got an update for Jedi Fallen Order that apparently is making it run quite a bit better on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X/S. This was not a lot to say here, just mostly it seems like the frame rate is better for everything, and that a little bit of the graphics are slightly higher resolution, slightly better frame rate. So yeah, if you wanted to play like a really good looking version and you have the next gen console, it'll work.
Eurogamer did a good video analysis of showing off how Fallen Order looked even on the pro versions of the previous gen consoles, and how the resolution and loading issues were kind of holding that game back a little bit, and that these new updates are both kind of a surprise and relatively good. They're not like new SKUs. You're not downloading a PS4, a PS5, or an Xbox One, a Xbox Series X, excuse me. Fucking just the worst names. You're not downloading a new SKU for the new generation, but they've updated the code base. So it's not perfect probably in a lot of ways, but it does look a lot better, which is cool. It's cool that they're continuing to support that game in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I don't know. I was a little wishy-washy on Fallen Order, but I don't know. Maybe I have to download it and take a second look. And then I think this is one that kind of came out of nowhere. Bethesda is going to be making an Indiana Jones game, and not just Bethesda, but Machine Games, the folks that make the Wolfenstein games that are all about shooting Nazis, are going to be making an Indiana Jones game, which probably will involve shooting some Nazis at some point. The thing, Bryce, is that there were a few Indiana Jones games. There's like that one on the Xbox. There's like a point and click one from LucasArts way back in the day. I've never played any Indiana Jones game. Have you ever played any Indiana Jones game in your life?
No, I haven't. I do know that they've made that a few like action adventure style games had been made. Like I think there's one for the PS2 era consoles, but it seems like it's been kind of untouched since, the resurgence of Tomb Raider and Uncharted, both of which are not licensed games really. So a developer would be a little more, or a publisher would be a little more incentivized to continue to support those. But there seems like there would be a lot to work with in doing an Indiana Jones game that isn't just doing, a big cinematic adventure game like Uncharted, or kind of action combat game like Tomb Raider.
Mm-hmm. All right. No, yeah, I could see it. I feel like the RPG aspects of the Wolfenstein games would factor in really well there with kind of doing upgrades and stuff. Though I'm going to say right now, Bethesda, I think you should do a Metal Gear Solid 2 and you play as Indiana Jones for the first 30 minutes. Then you play as Indiana Jones' son, Shia LaBeouf, way later down the timeline in like the 1970s when he's grown up, and they can have Shia LaBeouf come and, he's got the hat, and then it'll be fun. He's got the motorcycle. Man, Crystal Skull was...
I wonder...
That was a mess.
Would you want this Bethesda indie game, Indiana Jones games, excuse me, would you want this to be a first-person game like the other Machine games, the Wolfenstein games have been, or would you want them to make this a third-person, thing? Because, there are parts... And there's obviously Machine games can make more than one type of game, obviously, but this game seems like it definitely wouldn't fit, squarely in with the new Wolfenstein formula of a first-person shooter, right?
It kind of depends on whether, because Wolfenstein Youngblood had the co-development with Arcane, so it had a lot of like Prey DNA in it that ended up having a lot of, that kind of first person jumping in a window and then rifling through to find loot to do upgrades. And I don't know. Youngblood might be closer to kind of what I would think of, but I think you can kind of do, I think if you can get a good melee combat system in there and then make that whip just feel super good and let you whip it. I think outside of that, it's all mostly just like set dressing and story that you could. I don't feel like there's an impediment just at being first person. But I can also see how between Tomb Raider and Uncharted, it would feel maybe more natural to be a third person game because you could do more platforming. But then, does Indiana Jones do a lot of platforming?
Not really. It would certainly be very unique to make it a first person kind of roller coaster like experience of kind of first person thrilling, first person sort of thrilling game. That would be interesting. I think the tough thing, like, we talked about the IO getting the James Bond license, and you look at the work that they've done on the Hitman trilogy recently, and you're like, oh my God, that would fit so perfectly. You would not need to make a lot of adjustments to this formula, where I don't see that same transition or that same through line with Machine games as easily just left to my own devices.
I think wasn't there kind of like didn't Wolfenstein 1 had like you went from the underground base like out into a kind of semi-open world where things would happen, and then you would have to like travel to a specific location in the occupied city. I wasn't that the case, because I thought that I remembered in the second one that the second one was very just kind of linear levels, but in the first one it was a little bit more like open, and then like once you get the laser, it's like you can open up doors over in this area and get to stuff you couldn't get to before. I don't know. I think it could probably work, especially I think if they work with Arcane, it would work really well. But I think third person would actually be better, just because it would get be better for melee and whipping and like climbing and stuff. Well, you know what?
A new digital version of Harrison Ford.
That's right. Yet another digital version of Harrison Ford. Well, I tell you what. Let's take a break here. We're moving. Maybe I'm afraid I let us get stuck a little bit too much in complaining about Cyberpunk. That's on me. That's on me. But we're going to take a break, and we are going to power through the rest of this news in just a second. And we have a lot. We have more news. There's so much news. The news. I always have my tabs open with all the news. There's so many tabs, Bryce. I don't know about all these tabs.
We have a lot of stuff to get through.
We can probably run through some of this stuff. So one of these is just kind of I don't know. I thought it was kind of an interesting story. Bethesda was going to announce the next expansion for Elder Scrolls Online on the 21st of this month, but they've decided to move that to the 26th because the presidential inauguration is happening on the 20th, and I feel like in any other year they would just be like, it's business as usual. Tomorrow we'll make an announcement, but this year Bethesda's like, let's just go over here.
Let's see if we still have a country on the 7th.
Let's just make sure, just in case. Let's just move it over here. So, so Bethesda's doing that, but Capcom gives no fucks because they are doing a big Resident Evil showcase on the 21st, and they kind of put out like a little teaser for it, which has this is like the one big notable thing. I don't know if you've seen this, Bryce, on the internet, is everybody's in love with like there's this 9-foot tall vampire woman who's just this Titanic lady. It's kind of hard to tell in some of the in this like teaser, but there's like a very brief moment where you see her like almost bending over at the waist to go through just like a normal human sized door. And yeah, I look forward to being stalked around Resident Evil 8 by a 9-foot tall lady in a big fancy hat. I think that's
you think she's going to be the big bad?
I think she's going to be Mr. X.
The big bad.
Yeah, or Nemesis kind of stuff. I guess what Capcom is like, okay, so Mr. X was like 7 feet tall and Nemesis was like 8 feet tall. What should we do for Resident Evil 8? And they're like, what if somebody was like 9 feet tall? What if they were even bigger than that?
And a big hat.
And a big hat. Yeah. I really like her because she seems like a cross between Nemesis and like Excella from Resident Evil 5, who was the very sleazy, slinky, like Tricell lady that was all up in Wesker's business, and then she turns into a big monster and you have to fight her in a boss fight. I'm really hoping that Capcom could keep up this streak, because I really liked RE7 and I really liked 2 Remake and I really liked 3 Remake, even though I feel like that should have been an expansion for 2 because it was so short. But yeah, I'm actually really excited for RE8. It's one of the things on my list for this year that I'm really, really looking forward to. You don't spooky game, but Resident Evil more action spooky? Is that too spooky still?
Still spooky. I played a little bit of 7, which scared the bejesus out of me. I played a little bit of RE2 Make, and that was fine, but I was doing it on stream, so I was able to get through a lot of it just through sheer adrenaline. But still probably a little spooky for me. It's the type of thing where I probably wouldn't play it by myself. I would play it like for a stream if people were goading me on and watching me get spooked. But otherwise, I don't like getting scared.
Well, it's also RE7 was first person, right? Which normally you have that disconnect from watching Jill get thrown around by Nemesis, but like when Mia picks you up and throws you down the hall from a first person perspective, it's just like, oh shit.
I actually just got goosebumps. It just really happens.
Or that first part where Jack is just stalking you and just busting through walls and all that stuff with the car and the cop.
The nail through their hand and the opening sequence of the game, all that stuff.
So yeah, I can relate because I watched a brief tangent here. I watched I've been catching up on my horror movies from 2020, and there was this one called Host that was like a Zoom call horror movie. And it got so spooky that I actually turned it off halfway through and then watched the second half like during the daytime.
Wow.
And I think it's because it's from this very fixed webcam perspective that, like, there's a bit of a break in your immersion when you have like the artistry of cinematography and shots and like the camera placement and movement, stuff like this. But the fact that everything was just like constrained in these little boxes of a bunch of people doing this like seance, and then some shit starts going down, and it's like, it's too spooky. It's too spooky. But that movie's really good. Everybody should watch it. Let's see. We also had last week a big CES 2021 was virtual. I didn't actually watch a lot of this, but there's just a couple of quick things that I thought were kind of interesting. NVIDIA announced that they're going to have a Geforce Rtx 3060, which is supposed to be, it's a very budget. I mean, I think that the 3070 was 50 was the lowest one, and that was like $500. That was the low end of the last drop of the RTX 3000 cards. I thought it was the 50, 70, and 90, and it was like 500, 700, 1200.
I thought it was the 70, 80, 90.
Was it 70, 80? I could be wrong on that. I'm
90 was the like very, very high end. That's what it's too many. This is too many things, because I read this article about the 3060. I thought they already had a fucking 30. I thought they already had a low end, and that this was the low end.
Oh no, you're right. You're definitely right about that. It was 3070, 3080, 3090.
Okay. So
this is the budget version of the 3000 series, coming in at 329 as opposed to it was 500, right? For the 3070s were supposed to be 500 when they launched, I thought.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
These are supposed to be coming out in February. There's going to be the normal launch from, EVGA and PNY and all the different companies that make these. The question becomes, as always, this is probably going to be exactly the same as the last time, right? Where they go on sale and 10 seconds later they're all gone, and then they're on eBay for $700 instead of $300. Bryce, last week I decided that I wanted to buy that weird 7.1 surround pulse headset for the PlayStation 5. And they've been sold out on Amazon, but then the resellers, they're supposed to be $100, and the resellers on Amazon are selling them for $150 because they're marking them up like jackasses. But I just went to Sony's website, and they were totally selling them on Sony's website for $100. And
nice.
Because I logged in and I have PlayStation Plus, I got like free 2-day shipping. So I'm going to get that on Monday and check it out.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I figured that the accessories are still relatively available. Maybe not the consoles and stuff or these graphic cards, but I feel like they can they get some headsets. I feel like most people would not get like the headsets, or like I got a PlayStation controller charger for Christmas, and it's an aftermarket, just a little USB-C thing. I figured that's what most people would do instead of paying brand name price for some of the stuff. I think that headset got chopped because I don't think that there's like a third party equivalent to what they've got with the whole 7.1 Sony branding. It's got the white plastic like the PS5. I think that one, like the camera and the controllers, I think were pretty readily available, but I don't know. I'm still on the lookout for a Thrustmaster
there's a PS4 Thrustmaster throttle stick combo, and when Microsoft Flight Simulator came out, they just are gone. Like you can't, or you can buy them, but they're supposed to be $70 and they're selling them online for like $250 or something like that. And want one. I also want this stupid Razer is making a face mask with RGB lighting, and I kind of want one, Bryce.
Now, are they making these or are these concepts?
These are concepts. Yeah, this is in this article on Kotaku.
Because I like this.
Yeah.
I also like this. I feel like I like this.
They talk about how every year at CES, like Razer will come with like these concept items. And so the other one was this, I don't know if you looked at this wackadoodle chair with a translucent wraparound screen that deploys from the back of the gaming chair around where your face would be. That's stupid. I don't want that. But no. I love these masks. They're see-through. They're transparent, so you can see the person's mouth. They've got these little,
which is a big deal.
Yeah, these little like ventilators in the side that are supposed to do like some kind of active filtering. That would recharge. They've got RGB because, of course, I mean, it's a Razer product. And then apparently the concept has the like a charging box that then also has a bunch of UV lights in it where you close it up and then overnight it'll just blast it with UV lights to kill anything that might be on the mask. I want one.
I think this is really cool. I think this is a really well thought out concept, especially with the case, right? Because I thought, okay, well, if it's got power, then you probably would need to change the filters and how would you charge it, right? I would hate to like have to be charged. Excuse me, I got to sorry, can I charge my mask over there? But putting it in a case, because you're not going to wear them at home most likely, so then you put in a case that'll be there for hours. UV sterilization is real, but it takes a long time. I think it's such a really well conceived idea that depending on the price, you could get me to buy one of these things. It's cool. And being able to seeing lips and mouths is so difficult, for people who have trouble hearing, so much of people who have deafness, like they read lips, and in a big maskless society right now, it's very difficult for them to interact or interface with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess also you get to look like a cool Mortal Kombat villain.
Yes.
But I guess the real question here is, Bryce, how much would you pay for the Razer RGB crazy mask? I was thinking 200 would probably be the max that I would. No? Oh, you guys should see
way too much.
Bryce's horrified face.
No, I mean, I know Razer stuff is expensive. I apparently got a bunch of Razer shit in front of me now, apparently. But masks, disposable masks are relatively cheap. This is plastic and some little battery cells and some RGB. And I would feel like $50 to $75 would be the price for a premium reusable mask like this.
Okay.
Maybe more because you have the charging case and, UV lights and stuff. Maybe up to $100, but $200, a half of a PlayStation 4 Pro for a light up mask. That seems too much for me. Up to 100 would be very testing me on that.
All right. Well, then I guess the next question is, how much would you pay for Google Stadia, Bryce?
I wouldn't.
Any amount of $0.
I'm not. But you've been using Stadia a bit, right? So does this new story affect you?
It does, because my TV, I had a Samsung HD TV, and it went out, and I said after like a year and a half, it developed a bunch of bad bulbs, and I was like, well, I'm not going to buy the exact same brand that just went out on me. So I actually bought an LG TV to replace it, and LG announced at CES that they're going to be putting Google Stadia in integrating it into the software for the TV for their newer TVs, and then the last generation. I think because I bought a cheapo, that I might be outside of the generation that would actually get an update to do this, but I would really like to be able to have Stadia just integrated. I mean, I don't know why already Stadia isn't integrated into the software packages that you're getting on TVs in general.
Not to mention how many TVs come with Stadia, or not Stadia, but Chromecast built in.
Right.
It seems like there's must be some weird requirements with Stadia or with their publishing deals where, it's only certain Chromecast, newer Chromecast hardware or something that they're not able to push all this stuff out to every platform as easily as possible.
To me, what it smacks of is dumbass Google hubris, where they're like, they want people to spend the extra like $50 on Chromecasts as the way to play Stadia instead of just trying to push it wide, because it's taken them a while to get to a point. I mean, I need to even check because I bought Cyberpunk on Stadia to compare it to the Xbox, because I bought it on Xbox, the backwards compatible version on the Xbox, and then I bought it on Stadia, and it didn't run super well on Stadia, but I still wasn't even sure whether there was ray tracing on the Stadia version, whether the blades that they were running it on had the ability to do ray tracing at the speeds necessary to go back and forth. But yeah, there was also part of the story was that apparently the newer Sony TVs that are going to be coming out are all going to be running on the Android kind of TV platform. And so they are also probably going to be getting this stuff built in, which I think that this would be the only drawback I can think of to this is I don't know if you can sync a Bluetooth controller like an Xbox controller or because I don't think that every like smart TV has Bluetooth by default. I think that's probably going to be some of the upper ends of the TV market. I don't really know whether that's the question, but then really what it comes down to is, can I try Google Stadia by getting the app on my TV and then syncing, say, an Xbox controller to the Bluetooth on my TV? Is that enough for me then to try just some of the free stuff, the demos, offerings that are on there to see how it works?
So this is on one of the white pages for Stadia compatibility. They say playing Stadia on a TV requires the Stadia controller, and that is the Wi-Fi controller that it doesn't connect to a device. It connects to your router, and it just sends the input data directly to the server. Yeah. I would not be surprised if that is the exact way that this works, that you have to have the Stadia controller. Because you're right, like, you would not get USB, you would not get Bluetooth, and, like, if you have a smart TV, do you also have it hardwired? I don't have a smart TV, so I actually don't know. But do smart TVs have, like, Ethernet? Can you LAN into, like, would you even be able to get... Like, I would be worried about Wi-Fi as well. So I feel like they would not also allow the lag that comes with Bluetooth on TVs, which probably have Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Just for the record, my TV does have a hardwired connection. Ooh. So I do have it hardwired. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I actually think that, I think that Stadia could, now that they have the subscription thing where you can get a bunch of free games to try out, you don't have to pay like full price for games. I haven't yet been in a position where I would consider that. It's weird because I bought a PlayStation 5, I bought a Series X, I was pricing out, a 3070 Intel Core i9, like $2,700 gaming rig today to replace my out of date. Like, I try to stay very up to date with like things that can play games, but I think that Stadia works if you have a good internet connection. If you don't, right? Like if you want to play games but you don't want to invest any of this stuff, I think it totally works for that. But I don't know.
I know one of the articles I saw. Not to bring it too much back to Cyberpunk, but the thing that I saw was like playing Cyberpunk on Stadia is secretly one of the best ways to play that game because it has all of the horsepower of whatever they put in the blades nowadays. Yeah,
I actually need to check that back out because I played it on launch day and it was a little frame rate janky, but I'm not sure whether that was because I was playing it on launch day and a bunch of other people were slamming the servers at the same time. So, but. Anyway, in other hardware news, this is a very, very, very strange story. There was a company last week called Supers, SUP3R5, that was basically taking pre-orders for some modded PS5s, where they basically took all the white parts off and recolored them black, and they were supposed to be like. They also replaced they put the old PlayStation 2 logo. They replaced the buttons to make it look more like a PS2. So they were basically selling the $500 console at $649. They opened up the pre-orders. They all kind of went super fast, but then they canceled all of them, and they put out this update saying, important update. Last night, our team began receiving credible threats to their safety. We take these threats seriously. We aren't willing to risk the safety and well-being of our team or the potential impact this would bring to delivering your order. All existing orders will be canceled and fully refunded in the coming days. You'll receive a notification when this happens. We intend this to be a fun way to celebrate a shared nostalgia. As it turns out, there are people out there who are willing to interfere with that. If we determine that it's safe to try again, we will. For now, please stay safe. Which it really kind of got me wondering, like, what? I mean, I guess it would have to be more than just somebody on Twitter who was like, I didn't get my pre-order. These sold out so fast. I'm going to kill you guys. It would have to be more than that, though, right? like than just a general internet nonsense threat.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was some fool on the internet who said, "Oh yeah, I paid. I paid to look up where you guys are based out of, and I'm going to come and steal your stash of consoles or something." Because there is such demand for that. It looks like their website is up. I don't know if their website had gone down as a part of all of this, but they are like taking email addresses for, I guess, an email list. But oh no, here we go. It still says all orders are being canceled and refunded. So maybe it's still down. But it's this is a very strange one because there's stories of people robbing delivery trucks and mail people, stealing, shipments. So it wouldn't surprise me, just law of big numbers, to think that someone said, I'm going to come to where you have all of these stashed and then kill you if you stand in the way of me taking them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gotten, I don't know, 2020 has made everything weird, and this is really weird. I mean, I got to give it to them, though. I really like the way they look. I like what they put out. That's kind of all black. I mean, normally the PlayStation's like the only console that I have as I look over at my shelf of consoles that is anything but just a straight matte black console. So
I like the two-tone. I like it. I like it. I don't know. I'm into it.
I don't know.
I'm a freak.
I could see all the dust on the top of it. I'm really worried about what this PS5 controller is going to look like with like 5 years worth of hand grime on it. It's going to just turn brown on the edges. But I'm sure there'll be new.
The player's patina.
Yeah. Let's see. In other PlayStation news, there was Sony doesn't really do a whole lot at CES, but there was kind of like the sizzle reel that they put out that for a bunch of the different games that are going to be on the PS5 docket, and some of them had release dates which we didn't know previously. So Pragmata, the Capcom, the little girl in the Spaceman game, is apparently 2023. Square Enix's Project Athia is supposed to be January of 2022. The game with the cat Stray is supposed to be out in October with the robots. Kena Bridge of Spirits is supposed to drop in March, which was that one that was like the lady and then all the like kind of folklore-ish monsters and stuff.
Yeah, from the CG company. Yeah.
And then apparently Ghostwire Tokyo is supposed to be out sometime in October. However, there's kind of an addendum to this where apparently Sony updated that video and kind of took a lot of those dates, because what happened was after the sizzle reel there was a very basic screen with just full of text, and it had these dates on it. And apparently in the original, like, the word January is misspelled somewhere in here. And apparently they updated, or they took that video down and put up a revised version that didn't have any of those dates. So I guess it's possible that might be like either the information was wrong, take it down, or like, we don't want that information in the wild, take it down. Either one of those lines up pretty well in my mind as a potential for changing that. So I don't know.
Yeah, and enough of those launch windows are so far away that it might make trouble, or someone might make a big stink of like, oh, you had to push back, you had to push back Project Athia again. Oh, so much for the fine print on this old trailer. Like I still see people, someone I follow on Twitter pretty regularly posts the Persona 5 coming to PlayStation 3 in 2000 whenever graphic that was out years and years before that game ever actually came out. And so that stuff can stick. So I understand the reticence behind that, especially for third party games, which they especially don't have any controller oversight over.
Yeah. Let's see. From there, we have some Nintendo news. We got a brand new trailer for Pokemon Snap, which do you poke? Are you a poke man, Bryce? Do you poke the mans?
I'm not really much of a Pokemon. I'm certainly not a Pokemon. But I guess I will say I have played a lot. I have played a lot of games over the years. I've played Sword. I played Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. I've played various, mainline games when they've come out over the years. But in general, it's just like a passing glance at this point. Pokemon Snap was not a game I had ever played, but I think that this looks good, and also I don't know what any of these beasts are, so I don't know why. Seeing a toucan, it's just a toucan. It's just a toucan, Jeff. I don't know what most of these ones are now, and I'm an old man, and this is not for me. Sorry, Pokemon Snap apparently missed its time by about 10 years.
I'm kind of with you on that because I didn't have an N64. 2, I'm not into Pokemon. And 3, the idea of just like, well, it's an on-rails game where you take pictures of animals. And I'm just like, what? That doesn't sound fun. When do you shoot them? Do you make them fight each other at some point? Who wins? I'm just like, no, just super chill. Just look at the animals.
Having played, I've recently played Umurangi Generation, and that is the indie photography game. And that game is very upfront with how loose it is on judging the value of the stuff that you shoot. It's mostly like, what is the framing and is there a lot of color in it? But even that, Pokemon Snap has been even more basic than that. And so the technology has advanced quite a long way since then, that I think even as long as you make a game that is at about the level that it used to be, it will probably be hard to go wrong. I think it's a fine little on rails puzzle game, basically.
Yeah, it's going to be fine for people who like Pokemon. And hopefully it'll also be, I don't know, I'm more, is it weird that I'm more interested in Katy Perry than I am in Pokemon? Katy Perry has some really catchy fucking songs. I don't listen to any of her new stuff, but her early stuff is super catchy. Well, apparently Katy Perry is going to be doing something Pokemon related. It is unclear whether this is a Pokemon song, a music video that has Pokemon in it, producing the Pokemon verse on somebody else's song.
I bet what this is. Okay, here's my guess on what this. So they put out this little video of they put out this little cute video that has it looks like what is it, like a Rube Goldberg machine, but it very clearly isn't because there's a million cuts. But it's a cute little thing, and you watch a Pokeball go through the world. But at the very end of it, you hear a second of another song, and it's Katy Perry singing the word electric, and it makes me think that either she is does a theme song for some Pokemon movie because they keep making a million of those, or is on the soundtrack to that, and the soundtrack inspired by the new Pokemon 2021 movie. Dragonite goes to the doctor's office. It's probably that, right? I mean, what else? It's a musician, right? A musician doing Pokemon stuff, so it's probably they do some Pokemon songs.
What I'm saying is that Katy Perry should be the front woman for a Gorillaz style band, but the band is all different Pokemons playing the different instruments. And then she goes on concert, and then they bring out those Tupac holograms, but they're all the different Pokemon around her playing as her whole backup. And then she has a whole Pokemon album that you can go buy in the store. That's what
Jeff,
I'm saying.
Have you ever sometimes sat and thought about the power of ideas and how just sometimes ideas, once they're said and loosed into the world, that they can irreparably change society and culture for all time? And I think that you might have just done that. I think that it's a very dangerous thing that you've put out in the world, that Katy Perry would front a virtual Pokemon band, because I think that that's a very, very good idea.
Yeah, I do too. No, I want to see it. I will face this danger head on personally. Yeah. Also, I don't like this picture of her. She's wearing like a weird, it looks like a blanket, like a half finished quilt, and then there's like a picture of a Pikachu tail drawn on the back of her.
She was pregnant recently, so I wouldn't be surprised if either this is an old photo or this is a very flattering outfit decision. Is she pregnant again, maybe?
I don't know.
Because this is the kind of outfit you would wear, I think, if you were pregnant.
That's true. Maybe, is she having a Pikachu? Is she having a... Is that
Katy Pikachu?
Oh my God! Yes. Make Katy Perry dress up like a Pikachu and sing. I want to hear some white mom raps that are based on Pokemon lore.
Yes. Okay. Here we go. Cardi B doing the Pokemon rap. Skrr. Let's go.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's see. We also had some other Nintendo news, which is not Katy Perry related. There were like two videos, kind of a trailer, and then also a little bit more of an explainer about the Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury that is coming out. When it's like February 12th.
February.
Yeah,
a couple weeks.
I'm super excited for this because I thought that Super Mario 3D World was like one of the best Mario games that I played, and I mean, maybe it's not underrated, but I feel like when people talk about the best Mario games, nobody ever talks about Super Mario 3D World. Like 100 times better than New Super Mario Brothers, 100 times better than I don't know. Like I would put it on the short list of like the best. I don't know. I might even say that it's better than Odyssey, just because the tightness of the levels, of being able to develop these like very specific challenge levels as opposed to kind of the more open worldish dynamic that you would see out of Odyssey. Did Odyssey have individual levels? Did you go through the open world and then jump into a level?
HUD levels, and the levels would have like rabbit holes, and so you could go to like sub levels. Okay. But yeah, they were more like big hub worlds. Yeah, I agree. I think part of it is that 3D World was on the Wii U, and that's just the end of that sentence. So I think it is a great. I think 3D World is probably the best Mario game for people who did not really care for Odyssey, right? Like for me, I really dig Odyssey. I think Odyssey is one of the greatest video games made of all time. Super Mario 3D World is also an incredibly good game, that's just kind of where it's at. And so I'm glad it's on the Switch. And did you get to see the Bowser's Fury footage that they put out?
Yeah. It actually seemed like what was happening there was that Bowser's Fury was going to be more akin to like Odyssey, where it was going to be like more of an open
space.
Yeah, like an open area. And then the idea that crazy Bowser was going to show up every so often and then just go like crazy kaiju and just be shooting at you from like across the map and stuff. Like I like that as a concept. And then the end of it showed Mario turning into gigantic Super Saiyan Cat Mario to fight
Giga Cat Mario. Yes, he had the Super Saiyan hair too.
Yeah, it was just nuts. Like, yeah, I think this is great. Like, there's no part of this that I have anything bad to say about, because it's like releasing one of my favorite unknown or lesser well-known Mario games combined with what looks like a very good. I mean, Nintendo always brings their A game for Mario, right? Like there's a part of my mind that's just like, well, Mario, he doesn't have a gun or shoot anything. He's not a ninja. That's normally the stuff that I'm into. But like, it's Mario games are so fun. Even my cold black heart is not immune to the craft and the great it's just so easy to get lost in a Mario game. And for the most part, Nintendo I don't think Nintendo has put out like what I would ever consider a bad Mario game. There's some I like less, but I don't think there's any that I would consider bad, or that I even, once I got started playing them, wanted to stop playing. Like I was just like, oh, I can do one more level. Oh, what's on this level? Oh, it's a bunch of Pokies. There's a weird, Pokies climbing all over this level, and that's going to have like a different challenge. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's plenty of Mario games I've never had firsthand experience with, like Sunshine, or I don't even think I've spent much time ever playing 64, but especially in recent memory, like they make good games. And like even if this was just 3D World, like 3D World itself is a fantastic game. And I do wonder how long Bowser's Fury is. I wonder how long that game is, if that's, you know what I mean? Like it looks good. It looks really cool. And they also just make a whole point in the trailer to be like, and at some point you get all the things and you become Big Mario and you probably do a big boss fight. So I wonder. But I mean, that's all gravy. That just becomes gravy at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, what you play is 2-player co-op with Bowser Jr. Bowser Jr. is there, AI controlled, or can potentially be co-op 2-player. Yeah, I don't know. Every part of this I'm into. Can't wait.
Yeah.
I have to see if I can get. I don't know if I could remoto in Brian and Jason to see if Brian can outdo. Have you ever watched the dojo where Brian and Jason and I played Super Mario 3D World?
Oh gosh, if I have, it's been a while.
There was this whole thing about the dick bees, and if you
yeah.
yes,
no, I am intimately aware of the dick bees conversation.
Okay,
yes.
Okay. I'm like,
the
you were
vaudevillian elements of Brian Rushwood are not too far from my mind.
Yeah. In less vulgar news, apparently the Super Nintendo World opening has been delayed. There was a COVID flare-up in the Osaka prefecture, so basically it was supposed to open on February 4th, but now they're basically just like, we'll do it after this gets under control, because we can't be doing it while we got this not under control. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Did you look at did you talk about the direct where they showed off the actual theme park?
Oh yeah, I'm super into it. Like it
looks cool.
I want to get that vaccine, because I might actually have enough money saved up this year to. My friend Matt is, he does the Godzilla comics, right? And he goes to Japan every like October, November, right around Thanksgiving. And he's been saying, we've been talking for years, where he's like, man, one of these days you have got to come with me, and I'll take you to all the places and I'll introduce you all to the people. And I'm like, yeah, because I would love to go to Japan for a week, and I'm just like, I want to go to that Super Nintendo World. I want to go see that giant Gundam, and then I'll just do whatever you say is cool to do in Japan, or just wander around the streets drunk until I find the coolness on my own. And or get arrested or die and then go into some kind of MMO, and it turns out that I'm the most powerful person in the MMO, like you do in Japan. So
now I'm just picturing what an isekai anime starring Jeff would look like, and it's just another great idea, Jeff. You're just hitting dingers today.
I'm an unstoppable good idea machine. Well, that may be a good idea. Bad idea from Nintendo is apparently there's a YouTuber named Stack Smashing who has been showing off so we had the Nintendo Game & Watch Super Mario Brothers, which was just Super Mario Brothers on a little Game & Watch with also a little time thing on it. Cracked it open, was putting other ROMs on it, kind of showing various things that could be done, and apparently got that video taken down. It's interesting because as somebody who does YouTube stuff, I recognize this. A copyright owner has used Content ID to claim some material in your video, but the copyrighted material is just Game & Watch : Super Mario Brothers claimed by Nintendo. Apparently they're trying to kind of re-edit the video and see if they can get up there. Like, can I just show Zelda running on this? I don't know. I mean, knowing what I know about Nintendo and how they're not fans of you doing anything unauthorized. They're not fans of Let's Plays. They're not fans of anything outside of buy what we sell you.
and one of the two videos that got taken down, I don't think if I read this right, I don't think the video itself had instructions, but like the description had instructions on how to copy doing the Game & Watch hacks or whatnot, and that stuff is especially like a no-go. But if you look at the way Content ID is structured, and you look at the way that the notice that is sent to this person is of like, well, you used Game & Watch Super Mario Brothers content, which we own, was like a lot of people are making videos about Game & Watch, and they're showing what it looks like to use this hardware. That even by the weird Google rules that we have to abide by with Content ID as it relates to DMCA, I mean, that's really not kosher. There really is a very punitive element to this that is just highlighting how much of a mess this all is.
Well, I didn't put it in the notes, but I do remember reading I think it was like last week, there was a story where Nintendo pressured, what's that mod site where all the mods are, like Nexus mods or something like that.
Yeah, Nexus mods.
To basically eject it was 200 fan projects that were being worked on that used various Nintendo assets, and they were just like, you can't use Nintendo assets, so you got to take all this stuff down. Nintendo does not play around with this stuff. They do not have a sense of humor. They're not cool, chill dudes. They're very uptight. They're very just like you buy the thing we sell, and that's it. The end. Period. Don't attempt to make your own Pokemon game. What was it?
And I think it was Game Jolt.
Game Jolt. Okay.
It looks like Game Jolt had been. But yeah, Nintendo is very, very tight gripped on that stuff because I'm going to say this. I don't think I've owned a Nintendo product that I didn't hack in some way to the various ends you might put together on that idea. But, so it is a major problem for them, and I'm not surprised that they would try to clamp down on anything, but also try and stop the free exchange of information.
Yeah, the internet does not take kindly to that sort of thing. Let's see. I tell you what, I'm going to start running through some of these. I'm going to skip over a few of these. We had this one where it's just like a guy was taking Nintendo's. The ESA is not doing any political donations as a PAC anymore after all the stuff that happened last week.
We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. Previously, the ESA does a lot of giving money to people who are big fans of no regulation, companies do whatever the hell you want to, that kind of philosophy, which generally means Republicans, because that's, they're more into that stuff. But
that is what the conservative financial perspective tends to be, is a very hands-off approach to business. Sure.
Yeah. Whether that continues or not, we will see. A really strange story this week about, did you read this about these Red Dead Online players where there's a Red Dead Online server that is a super hardcore role play server, and then they apparently hacked that jail from Red Dead 2, which isn't in the Red Dead Online map, into the Red Dead Online map, and then if you do a crime and you get caught by one of the other players that is a sheriff and you were doing a crime, then you have to go to the prison and stay there for they said that the way that they do the time is that it's 18 years.
Minutes is days?
Yeah, minutes is months. Yeah, so it ends up being a 3-hour stint for doing crimes that you've got to just stand in the prison. And then apparently, if you're part of a gang, your gang can kind of get in touch with the people that run the server and be like, okay, we're going to go try to break him out. And then there can be these kind of big PvP scrums of people trying to keep this prison break from happening. It's really fascinating, and it reminds me of just sometimes you have a video game online that isn't doing what people want it to do, and so people just start using their imagination to do what they want to do. They're just if you're not going to do it, we'll do it ourselves.
This is a whole rabbit hole, and and I would just suggest to anybody who's listening who's really interested in this, there is a similar, if not much longer storied RP scene for Grand Theft Auto 5. And it is really the exact same thing where they have very hardcore RP servers. People have occupations. They stay in character. And it's super cool. It's its own, environment, and they've got all this software stuff built up. At one point I was running the software, which is really difficult because you have to have a separate install of Grand Theft Auto 5, which is a fucking 200 gigabyte game.
Wow.
But it is the stuff that they've done with RP, especially with these big Rockstar games, is really fascinating, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot that they've put into in terms of like making new interiors, making new environments, accessing data. Like, it's cool, man.
That sounds cool. Let's see. So Hitman 3 is coming out next week on all the platforms. On the PC, it has a 12-month stint as an Epic Games Store exclusive. Unfortunately, this means that if you own the game on Steam, you don't automatically get to pull in the Hitman 2, and then probably also the legacy Hitman 1 levels off of, because normally if you own Hitman 1 and then you buy Hitman 2, then you get the Hitman 1 levels in Hitman 2. But because Hitman 2 and Hitman 1 are not on the Epic Games Store, you'll have
Hitman 2 is not. Hitman 1 is on there.
Oh, is it?
And had been giving out for a little while, but Hitman 2 was not on the store.
Okay. Apparently you have to purchase essentially the unlock for Hitman 2 if you want to access those levels in Hitman 3 on the PC version of the Epic Games Store. Now, apparently, they're going to be offering an 80% discount on the Access Pass for 14 days after the game releases, which is interesting. It was funny when I read this that like Epic Games has been so aggressive about giving away free stuff to assuage people's various objections to their existence in this, that I was a little
doing exclusivity deals,
right? That I was a little shocked that they didn't just say, "Hey, every version of Hitman 3 on the Epic Games Store comes with Hitman 2." Like, we're just going to bundle it in and give it to you, as opposed to making you buy it because there's a friction there if you already own it on the Steam store and whatnot. But I don't know. Yeah,
I know that they mentioned that like a lot of people had been given Hitman as a part for free as a part of the Epic stuff. I wish I'm not able to find what the price of these access passes are, but I think it makes sense for them to do it this way. I know when I last year made the decision, okay, well, I want to have all the Hitman stuff. I'm going to decide to get it on the Sony store because I'm getting the PlayStation and all. It just, the process of doing that with Hitman 2 was very frustrating because it's like, okay, you need to download Hitman 2. You need to also download Hitman 1, and you have to like play through the prologue on Hitman 1 and through some of Hitman, I think maybe through the prologue of Hitman 2, and then that like activates the legacy pack, and then you're downloading the legacy pack, where it sounds like all of that is just bundled into Hitman 3, and you just get these access packs that are like keys and that just unlocks up, because it's a lot, especially on the consoles, it's a lot of file management, which is not easy, and there's limited hard drive space. I wish it was easier here on Epic, especially because they did this exclusivity deal. It's just a lot of confusion and like what was it that we were talking about months ago, where it's like, just figure it out. Just fucking figure it out. Don't make this so difficult for people, especially on PC, where people have it on Steam. We know that you can because all this works through your IO account, so they know you've connected the game and you own a copy of it for Windows. Just fucking figure it out.
It's really convoluted. Like, I actually reinstalled Hitman 2 on my PS5, and Bryce, I have, because I sign up for everything, I have PlayStation Now, and Hitman 2 is on PlayStation Now. When I searched my PlayStation 5 for Hitman 2, it had the Hitman 2 like starter edition, which is technically what I bought, and then it would download all the levels as DLC. And it also had a separate entry for the PS Now version of Hitman 2. And I ended up downloading both of them and then deleting both of them and then re-downloading the one that I wanted. And then that was on top of the fact that the legacy stuff, like where that DLC is and how it's listed, and like on the PlayStation, on the Xbox it was actually a lot easier because you just have to literally go hit the download button for everything you want. But on the PlayStation it's like the outfits show as like the snow outfit item. Yeah, it shows as like purchased, but it doesn't say it downloaded it. So did it download it as part of the Hitman 2 base files and then unlock it? Or is it not there? Right. Like it's kind of a mess. Like I was saying this to Michael last week. I kind of hate the store and the content management stuff on the PS5. The way that it's just like a big search box, right? That there's very little distinguishing between what do I own, what is my library, what is a store item, what is a DLC item. The fact that they've tried to kind of compact it into to be more simple has actually made it more difficult, because then you end up with PlayStation Now Hitman 2 and non-PlayStation Now Hitman 2 and like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, especially for games like Hitman, where, you know, where season one was, you know, episodic, and so those end up being separate files, and then the legacy packs are separate files, and then Hitman 2 you could buy piecemeal, and so those are separate products. And like, I think it's at least good that with Hitman 3 they've said it's all just going to be in the Hitman 3 file, just get this. And but it is it's tough to figure out digital entitlements. But figure it out. Make it easy, especially, you know, downloading the wrong versions of titles. Like, I didn't expect the idea of what is it, smart delivery to be that essential. And just it's very easy to pick the wrong fucking version on the PlayStation 5 of anything, whether you're playing it or downloading it. I feel you 100%.
Yep. Let's see. I'm going to skip some of these. There were a couple of these, though, that were kind of fan things that I liked. There apparently was a PSP Yakuza game a long time ago called Kiryu Ryuga Gotoku Shijo. Okay. It's Yakuza Black Panther. It was never released outside of Japan. It was a PSP game that came out in 2010, and it was like one of the only games to not have Kiryu Kazama as the main protagonist up to the Yakuza Like a Dragon that came out at the end of last year. But apparently some enterprising fans have partially translated it. And now, of course, this is not like readily available anywhere. And then the other big hitch is that it's only the main story that is translated. All the side missions are still untranslated, and that they're probably not actually going to continue with this project because they've been working on it since 2014. And this is as far as they've gotten, which... I don't know. That seems like, you know what? There's still a few Yakuza bits left that you can't play. I didn't know about this. You know, let's get Yakuza Black Panther and what's the stupid zombie shooter game?
Oh, I have that.
Dead something.
Well, let me go check and see what it is.
Yakuza Dead Souls. Bryce is actually physically getting it. So, but I just used the Google. So
I lost it.
You lost it.
I lost it. But I have it. Maybe I sold it or something. I don't know where it is. But I had it. I definitely never played it.
It's Dead Souls.
Dead Soul. Oh, okay. Dead Souls. Yeah. And they made it's good that someone has preserved a little bit of, or, you know, been able to translate at least the main story. But I would say anything we can do to not make the Yakuza story more complicated, the better.
I don't think that's possible. You didn't actually get a chance to play. You didn't play Like a Dragon yet, did you?
Not yet. I'm waiting for it on the PS5 because I know they don't have cross save.
Yeah. Another kind of weird mod that this one turned into like an actual thing was Axiom Verge, the Metroidvania from, what was this, like 2012 or something like that? It's been a while. Got like a new randomizer mode that you can basically kind of just randomizes kind of where the different items are in the game. And it's got, apparently, I like this, it's got some different difficulty options, and there's like masochist, and then the Thomas Happ, the guy that made it, wrote this. I love this, where he says, as of right now, there are exactly 4 people in the world able to play this mode. If you don't know that you are one of them, you're probably not. This progression mode is included primarily because the aforementioned people who developed this mode included those masochists in question. Which this was actually developed by a bunch of modders and speedrunners, and then Thomas Happ liked it so much that they ended up kind of rolling it into an update that you can now play. That's
really cool. Randomizers are like a hot, and not to simplify it, but randomizers are like a really hot thing, and Axiom Verge is a cool game, so it's cool to see that they've integrated it, plus with difficulty levels, so that you can't get stuck with a bad seed if you're on a beginner. Like, you can still pretty much play the game and you got to figure out where stuff is, but you don't need to use like huge crazy glitches to get through something because the item you need is on the other side of a door that won't open without it, or stuff like that.
Yeah. Let's see. From there, we had some trailers. See. We got a new kind of combat trailer for Returnal, which is the Housemarque kind of Soulsy third person action, but then also bullet hell style game. This one was just kind of showing off some of the cool like weapon types, alt fire modes, and more of just kind of, I feel like, just the general moment-to-moment actual game of Returnal, as opposed to the I mean, I think there was one other trailer that we saw that had a little bit more of the gameplay in it, but
now we see we have a lot of gameplay footage here. I think this looks cool, man. Like, I'm into this. Hopefully it's not too difficult. I'm not great at shooters, but it's a third-person shooter, so maybe that means it can't be that bad.
I don't know. I mean, you got through Nier Automata was like a third-person bullet hell, right? So
yeah.
But yeah, I think this looks really good. And then we also got Persona 5 Strikers all-out action trailer. I'm having some really mixed emotions because I love Persona. I really want to play this. I kind of wasn't able to really get into Hyrule Warriors. The whatever, the Age of Calamity, but then I never really, I think maybe I just didn't really try super hard. But I really like Persona 5, and if this is less than 100 hours long, I would really, because I just keep seeing these articles with headlines that are like, you won't really, there's so much actual Persona 5 in here that it's not just Dynasty Warriors with a Persona 5 skin, that there's like making links and going on social things, and like some more of the stuff that you would expect from a Persona game, but then that when you get into the actual action, then it's more of a Muso game. So
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have space in my heart for a Muso game. I think that me and Persona 5 are just completely divorced. I think that we just don't see each other. We try not to text each other. I see it in the PlayStation Store and I just move on past it because there are things that look cool and that I like, and there are just some parts of it that I've grown to really dislike based on how that actual game is.
I feel like it was like very early on when Bryce and I were working together, where we were talking about video games. I brought Persona 5 and you just like spit on the ground and you were just like, fuck that game. And I'm like, what? Okay, whatever. I mean,
yeah, fuck that game.
Let's see. We also got a trailer for, I don't know. Little Nightmares Lost in Transmission. Sorry, these pages aren't loading as fast as they should. Did you play the first Little Nightmares, Bryce?
No, I didn't.
We played it on Rage Select, and I think Amanda and I played it, and we got a lot of flack because it had a very slow start, and I think we ended the video by just like, man, I don't know, this is it's not doing it for me. Like, go to hell. And everybody was like, you were like 10 minutes from like where the game just goes off the rails and all the cool shit starts, which I don't actually consider to be my problem if a game can't show me anything good for, you know, an hour, if you have to play an hour. But but this one, this kind of looked compelling.
Like this looked like an Amnesia like game, but with some side scrolling. But then there's also some 3D traversal. I'm very tired. I don't know. This seems fine. Little Nightmares was not on my radar. I had to look it up and then say, oh yeah, I'd also never heard of this either.
Yeah. Given, you know, that you're not a big fan of the spooky games, probably not a great, but I think it looks pretty good. I also would be interested to know if you would consider The Medium. We got a live action trailer for The Medium, which comes out like in a week and a half. About 2 weeks, essentially. Which this is a Bloober team flip back and forth between two different worlds and kind of solving puzzles by going to the spirit realm and then coming back to the regular realm.
I wonder, because Bloober team has made like Amnesia style, you know, horror traversal games, but the stuff that we've seen so far of The Medium kind of gives it a puzzly look, and I'm down for a puzzle game. I'm like, that's kind of why I made it as far as I did in Resident Evil 2, because like there's action and stuff, but also that's just kind of a puzzle game, and you're figuring stuff out. And I kind of like the look of that in The Medium. What did you think of this trailer? This is an interesting decision for a trailer.
I never entirely understand why video game companies decide to do live action trailers, because I mean, I guess therefore to try to attract people who would be like less interested if they saw just gameplay, but might be more interested in giving the game a chance if they saw something that's just like, well, that looks like a movie. I like movies, but it's always very weird to me because they always seem like they require a lot of. I always feel like I see a lot of money in the live action trailers where I'm like, you could have spent this money on anything else and I would have liked it more than hiring a human being, dressing them up in like clothing appropriate to what's in the game and sets, and then doing, you know, this kind of integration with the special effects and stuff. I know a lot of people like them. I've never though entirely understood the point of the live action video game trailer. I think the first time that this happened to me was there was a really lavish Dishonored 2 live action trailer, and I was just like, why would you spend all that money? You could have just given that money to the people that work there and it would have been better spent, because who remembers the super like accurate live action Dishonored 2 trailer now? You just remember the game. You don't remember like this, I don't know.
Well, part of it can be I also think that this trailer is maybe not great at expressing what the game is, unless the game is drastically different than everything we've seen about it so far. But part of marketing is like, you have a budget and you get a certain amount of saturation in that budget, right? Like, well, it won't be any effective to buy like Instagram ads or Twitter ads, and you can't just give that money up because that money has been budgeted for marketing. So let's give some money to whatever this production house is. I mean, it mentions in the trailer, like or it's in the description of the video here, like the studio and the names of the team who put this together, and they're like a visual effects studio. Like, we have some money, let's just give, and we have some money left over, right? Like a lot of times, like, you know, I mean, it's January, right? It probably took quite a while to do this. I'm sure if they commissioned this near the end of the year when the budget had plenty of money left over, just, hey, here's some money, make us a live action trailer.
Yeah.
You know, because if people have never heard this quote before, half of marketing works and nobody knows which half. And so you have stuff like this, which is a little out of left field, but then you spend all of the money.
I was just trying to figure out though. Yeah, no, they're self-publishing it. I just didn't know that Bloober Team had the resources. I guess I would have expected. I guess I would have expected something like this if this was like Bloober Team developed it, but Square is publishing it, right? So they're like, let's do the big media blitz. But I always thought of Bloober Team as like a more modest company than
I wonder if they've got funding or something, because like the Medium has been a big marketing game for Xbox, and I assume, or if I'm remembering right, that this is like some form of Xbox exclusive, and so maybe with Microsoft still spinning up their studios, that they're really pumping in money to get strong or long exclusivity deals that gave them money to put these, because this is the game that Akira Yamaoka is doing the soundtrack for too, right? Not that I think he's like especially a high ticket composer, but he's a well-known name, especially in the horror game genre.
Okay, I hadn't put that together before. I thought that, okay, I knew it was going to be on Game Pass, but I didn't know that it wasn't releasing on PlayStation, which, at least according to the Wikipedia page, it's got a release date for Windows and for Xbox, but not PlayStation. So that makes more sense to me, because Microsoft has been throwing a lot of money behind a lot of shit. So, you know, anything that can make the Xbox Series X look really good. Let's see. We also had the silly Sims 4 paranormal stuff pack that is coming out, where you could be like a spirit medium. There's like a bunch of ghosts. You can have seances. I'm amazed that the Sims 4 just keeps cranking it out. Just keeps cranking out $20 expansions.
Yeah. I mean, they have to. I mean, they keep giving out the Sims 4 base game, right?
Yeah.
So you got to fill it with stuff. And this makes sense. The Sims is now a platform, and EA are the only people who make content for it. But this is fine. Yeah, why not? It seems bad timing. I would say Paranormal Stuff Pack not coming out in an October month is weird timing to me.
Yeah. Oh, well, see, the only reason that I feel like this stuff is now like on my radar is because, I don't know if you know this, Bryce, but I made a Sims Jeff to play the Star Wars Batu expansion, and I fell down the rabbit hole, and I spent like 6 hours remaking my entire condo in the Sims 4, and then made my little Sims Jeff like an influencer, or there's like a literally like a Let's Player career track. And he doesn't like to go outside, and he's really awkward at talking to people, and he just likes to stay inside and play video games all the time. And I'm just like, nailed it. So now I'm going
to check that dojo out. Yeah.
I was watching this, and I was like, I need Jason to be a paranormal investigator in my game, and then I want Jason and Sims Jason and Sims Jeff to go on paranormal adventures. So.
That's great.
Let's see. We also got, I didn't expect this at all. King of Fighters 15 got, we knew that it was coming, but it got a teaser, basically. I actually really, for like 2 weeks, super got into King of Fighters 14. And I did not expect that to happen, but it was just like, it had a really, really good tutorial, and it had a really kind of interesting battle system. And so I didn't play online, but I would just end up playing a lot of the characters against the computer, and it had some good stuff. But I really like the look of what they've got going on in 15 here, where it's just very clean 3D. It's not quite as bombastic as like maybe the Arc System Works stuff ends up being, but it's just very like solid. And considering that the King of Fighters stuff has been very good, like very just meat and potatoes fighting game. Here are the systems, learn how to play them, have a good time. I'm actually really excited for this. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool.
Let's see. Let's just run through these real fast. Scott Pilgrim versus the World came out this week, but there is a physical edition that is being made by a limited run. So if you want a physical version of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, I think they're making a PS4 and a Switch version. So you can get that. And let's see, we got I don't know, this is one of those like a place listed March 12th as the release date for this Mass Effect Legendary Edition. This is a Singaporean...
Which has still not been announced, right? Like...
No. It's officially announced.
Oh, okay.
They finally put out like a teaser for it. No additional information. But yeah, a Singaporean retailer and an Indonesian retailer both are suggesting that the game will be in March. Right now,
is March?
Yes, March 12th.
No, sir. That's not right. That's not happening.
Who knows? We also got news that Ubisoft's Riders Republic, one of the least interesting games that I could think of in my entire lifetime, is getting delayed kind of indefinitely. It was supposed to be February 25th, but it is now getting pushed out. This is the one from the people that made Steep, except now instead of just snowboarding, you can motorcycle, you could drive a car, you can fly a wingsuit, and then it's like 50 people online, and we all got to race to the bottom of this mountain. Ready, set, go, boo! And I want a new hat with smoke coming off of it for my next round.
What?
Bryce has a look on his face, a very confused look on his face.
Yeah, like it's probably not a good sign that me reading this article earlier today was the very first time I had heard of this fucking thing. Like I like the idea of Steep. I mean, Steep is not a game for me, but I like the idea of what they were doing with it. I don't know what this I don't know what this is. I figure it out for sure, because I'm looking at a picture of a guy motorbiking and skiing and snowboarding. For some people are gonna die, Jeff. People are gonna die.
Yeah, it was one of the Ubisoft forwards from last year where they showed it off, and it was like, this idea is that like it's like a battle royale race where people could be on bikes or snowboards or wingsuits, and they all got to get from point A to point B, and they're all dressed lavishly, and it's just steep, but then more so.
It's steep, but it's also the crew.
Right. So
okay.
I don't know. Whatever. Right. I'm still just mad because when I went to buy Steep, the guy in front of me bought the last copy, and the only thing available at the GameStop was the fucking gold collector's edition that I spent $100 on, even though I knew I was going to make 2 videos for Rage Select and never fucking play it again. Anyway, Hogwarts Legacy is going to be in 2022. This was supposed to come out this year. I think we can all agree, right, that like after Cyberpunk, like if you guys need extra time, take extra time.
Take it.
Yeah. Some quick stuff. Battlefront 2 is free on the Epic Game Store. So if you do want to check out Battlefront 2, I actually think last time I went to play Battlefront 2 that it's actually a pretty good game now. Now that they've gotten it calmed down, and then all of that extra content has gotten added into it. Like young Obi-Wan and the Ewok hunt mode and all this crazy stuff that's gotten added into it. So, and then a couple of quick fun things. We got some pictures from the Mortal Kombat movie. I'd like to hold out hope that there will be a good Mortal Kombat movie, but the problem, I think, Bryce, is that you have this very thin line where you have to make sure that you're walking down the line, and on one side is taking yourself too seriously, and on the other side is being too goofy. And if you go too far, either way, you're going to have a bad time. I don't know. This looks really serious. I don't like this Kano where he's just got scratches on one side of his face instead of the big stupid metal Kano face going on.
This is going to be another one of the HBO Max movies, or one of the Warner movies that went to HBO Max. So hopefully the idea that this had been budgeted to be a big theatrical release means that there's going to be pretty good quality of it. But video game movies don't have a great track record.
No, they do not. They do not.
But Jeff, I mean, martial art movies, it's hard. It seems like it would be hard to fuck that up, right? There's a formula of martial arts movies to some degree, and if what you make is a big wuxia, then that can be cool, right? Wuxias are coming. I've got like some have invaded a little bit. That it's the time of the action movie. The guy who did Aquaman is doing it. So maybe this is a cool spectacle.
Maybe I don't know. Okay, so here's the thing that gives me pause is that they've decided that like the main character of the movie is just an OC, right? Is like an aspiring martial arts guy that then has a tattoo of a dragon on his chest. He doesn't know where it came from, and does it mean more? And then, oh my goodness, I've been embroiled in it. And I'm like, I think that what the MK series on the story parts of the MK series on the since they rebooted it, kind of have come to tell me is that like you don't need a POV character for Mortal Kombat. Like what you need is you need to just make us care about, like in the old Mortal Kombat movie, you know, Sub-Zero and Scorpion were just there because, hey, look at Sub-Zero and Scorpion. But like Sub-Zero and Scorpion, they have like a history. The whole, Sub-Zero's clan fucked over Scorpion's clan. Like there's a whole thing in Mortal Kombat.
But is that taking it too seriously? Because if I'm the average person, when I think of Mortal Kombat, I think of all the big gore and the action and very iconic character designs. But I'm on the outside on Mortal Kombat for sure. I don't know anything about who's fighting who, teams, factions, clans, none of that shit. I want to see someone's dude get punched into his skull. You know, it's just a big hole right here. I think all that stuff is cool. I think it's great that there's a long history behind Mortal Kombat, but is that the part that it would be taking it too seriously?
Well, I guess, yeah, you make a good point. I guess the thing is that I have over the Mortal Kombat. Okay, so Mortal Kombat like went off the rails in the beginning. They didn't have cutscenes, right? It was just the fighting game. They had the ending stuff, and then as it went forward, they started having more story elements, and then it got real stupid. And then in Mortal Kombat 7. Just Mortal Kombat. I believe it was 7. Was it 7? No. This is 11, 10, 9. 9. It was Mortal Kombat 9. They basically went all the way back to the beginning of Mortal Kombat and created a game that went over all the story from Mortal Kombat 1 through 3 and then said, okay, and then here's the end and we're starting from here. And they really developed all of the different characters and their relationships with each other. And that's when I started to care a lot more about what was going on in the story. So I think that the thing is that every Mortal Kombat character has a backstory. You could make them all interesting characters. If you just focus too much on the fighting, then we don't care why they're fighting. And then I stop caring that they are fighting. So it's like you have to have like, because Scorpion, his family was killed by Sub-Zero's clan, and he went to hell and became a demon and made a deal with an underworld sorcerer named Quan Chi to come back as a spirit of vengeance. That's why he's got the skull and he's on fire and he's a revenant. And so then like he kills Sub-Zero, but then Sub-Zero's brother becomes the new head of the clan, and so they've got a big beef. And then there's the whole Cyber Ninja program where the Lin Kuei get taken over and turned into cyborg ninjas, and that's a whole problem. And you know, then you got Liu Kang and Kung Lao, and they suck. Nobody should ever watch them. They're horrible. I don't care. He's the main character. He's stupid and he sucks. And then you got like Raiden and the Outworld tournament, and like he's made the deal with the Elder Gods to like make sure that Shang Tsung or what's his face, the big hammer doesn't take over, and then Shang Tsung's got a tournament. Yeah, Thor doesn't take over. And then, you know, you got Baraka and Melina's is a clone of Kitana, and Kitana's the princess of Outworld, but they got taken over, and I don't know, there's a lot there. You don't have to bring in like a guy. You don't have to bring in like a guy with
but you know what? I need that guy. Okay. I need that guy.
Okay.
I do need a guy to say, whoa, it seems like you two fucking hate each other. Whoa, that's cool. Like, there are like this article mentions like 10 different characters that are in this movie.
Yeah.
You can't do a lot with that many characters, right? Here's the question is, and I guess maybe you've already answered this, but what is the balance between all of the backstory and the plot that gives us a reason for these characters to fight, and the spectacle of seeing these characters fight in what is probably going to be a very gruesome, gory way? Like, like I guess that's the balance in terms of whether you consider it serious, too serious, or too jokey, is how much real world or canonical meat is in there. But I think we talked the last time I was on the show about what a Metal Gear Solid feature film would look like, right. And there's a lot to digest in just the first game, right? Let alone across the series. And there's some ways you can simplify stuff, but also much like what you described with MK9 of like, hey, let's just draw a box around all of the things that have happened, all of the conflicts and character dynamics, and then move into describing just what's happening in this story. I think there's some value in making an original character to lead the charge on that thread, and there's definitely a whole host of ways that can completely go off the rails of, you know, this guy needing to have a romantic subplot or having a child lost or whatever reason to make us like, I don't know. I don't know.
No, it's funny because as you were talking, I just realized the problem that I had is that the character that you want, the POV character for the audience that doesn't have any idea about any of this bullshit, is Johnny Cage. Is like that's the character that he's just an actor who got roped into this tournament. He's a fish out of water story. He doesn't know about any of this stuff. In fact, he thinks he's just on a movie set until people start punching faces off. And then suddenly it's like, oh, you can't leave the tournament because, you know, we're doing the tournament and we'll kill you if you leave. You got to get into it. And like, I feel like there's a lot of ways that you can use Johnny Cage to be that character. But in any case, I mean, there is no shortage of bad Mortal Kombat things, right? There's like a TV show and a cartoon and the second movie with like, you will be the one who dies or whatever Sindel says, and just all that horrible stuff. So NetherRealm is kicking ass at the games. If this is a disappointment, it's no skin off my nose. I got the games. I can just go play the games. Yeah. And last but not least, I love this Gengar, this Pokemon. I said it's sold out. They made this plush Gengar, which is a Pokemon that has this big mouth, and then there's like this huge, like 6-foot tongue that comes out that you can essentially like use as a blanket or lay down on it and put your head in Gengar's mouth as a pillow. There's this great like set of pictures on Twitter of this guy, this model doing various different poses with this. Apparently, according to the Pokemon lore, Gengar's mouth is like a portal to hell. And like when he's super maxed, like the voices of your loved ones will come out of his mouth to entice you to jump into the afterlife through Gengar's mouth. So the idea of having a sleeping bag where you shove your head into the afterlife and lay on top of a giant monster tongue is, I don't know, it's somewhat fitting, I think.
Yeah, this is cute. They've got all the diagrams. You can roll up the tongue and use it as a pillow or stuff your head inside. The tongue is like long enough for like an adult man to lay down on. This is cute. Gengar, I think, is one of the Pokemon. I almost called it a character, as if I was a billion years old. Is one of the more visually distinct and kind of iconic looking Pokemon. This is a cute gag gift. Yeah.
It's just unfortunate that they sold out in like 12 minutes and that they were $300, which I might spend on a Logitech face mask, but I'm not going to spend on a sleeping bag Pokemon.
It looks like I can't quite tell if they might have a second run up for pre-order, but this says would be shipped in July 2021. So you might still be able to pre-order this on the Bandai site, but yeah, that's I bet if I was making this, I would not have made a lot of them either. I don't know, this is goofy. I can't tell if I love this or if I would never ever buy this.
I just like in the I mean, we're looking at the pictures of it and the like demonstration pictures. There's this one where the guy's got it on his desk and he's just kneeling in front of his desk, dejectedly shoving his head inside of a Pokemon's mouth, right next to like a sad laptop and a little stool. And like this is like a mood. This picture is a definite mood, and I felt it quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that I think the caption that goes with it on the actual listing is like, while teleworking, you can enter the mouth. because it's him sitting next at the laptop next to it in the like before. There's like a before and after.
Yeah.
Wow. Gengar, man.
That's what it is, and that's it. That's all we got. That's the end of the podcast. Woo.
That's all. Okay.
So much podcast. Bryce, thank you so much for hanging out. I think we went over. We covered a lot of ground today. Do you want to tell the people where they can find you on the internet, where they can get access to the marbles, to get access to the marble empire that you are building? Where can they go?
Follow me on Twitter at Brycas, Brycas. And the way that the marbles thing will work is that you won't need to sign up or do anything. You'll just join along whenever we're playing live, and you'll just automatically be in the thing, and it'll just happen. So I stream at twitch.tv/Night Attack, where we do a bunch of other podcasts, and that's where I do the Hitman streams every few weeks. And so just nothing special. Just follow me on Twitter to see when that starts, which will be early February. So thanks.
Okay. And mailer@rageset.com is the email address you want to send in questions. I know we didn't get to questions. One of these days I'm going to
of these days I will take questions.
Bryce will be on here. We will take questions. We're just going to block out an entire day. We're just like, we're going to record a 5-hour podcast. We're going to do a lot of questions. We're going to do a lot of news. We're going to do a lot of everything. It's going to be everything.